Welcome to an overview of the American education system from kindergarten to university. This presentation is designed just to give you an overview of how our system works and how our system is different than the system here in Belgium. Then in class we'll look at some very specific things associated with education, some of the more contemporary issues and some of the problems that the American education system is now facing. Okay, let's get started. The first thing to understand is to take a minute and to read this quote from John Adams, who wrote it in 1785. Remember, John Adams was the second president of the United States. Basically, what he said was that in every town, every village, every city, and every square mile in which there's a community, there needs to be a school. This is interesting because, of course, what's different here is that in Belgium, the center or the focal point of a village or a town or a city is, of course, the church. In America, it's the school. From the very beginning, the schools were the center point, the community center, the place where everybody gathered. And not only should there be a school in every community, but the community should fund that school. So everybody in the village should be responsible for the education of all the children in that village. This is what we refer to as public education in America. Public education is simply that education in which is funded by the public and is open to everybody in America. Public education in terms of the K-12 environment, this is the kindergarten through the end of high school, is of course financed by government organizations. That's a combination of local organizations, state organizations, and in some cases federal organizations. But if you remember from the videos for earlier in this week, the federal government has little to nothing to say about education. What they can do is promise states and communities money if they do certain things related to education. So the federal government cannot levy taxes to pay for education, but they can use grants and things like that to sponsor education, and they do. Education in the public sector is free and available to everybody. It doesn't matter who you are, including illegals and the children of illegals. It's paid for by a combination of property taxes and or school taxes. A property tax, of course, is when they tax the land that somebody owns. In some communities, a portion of the property tax goes to pay the school. And in other cases, in bigger cities usually, there is a special school tax that everybody needs to pay. And our concept is simple. We provide everything for the students from not only the education perspective, but all the course books that they use, the handouts. We can supply them with pens and pencils and whatever other tools they need. And then in the modern society, we also provide them with substance. It's truly believed that a child cannot learn if a child is hungry. So we started with breakfast programs in the morning, and now we have free lunch programs. And in some communities, they often will send children home with specific food that they can eat for dinner. Because we truly believe that if a child is not healthy, physically healthy, then they're not mentally healthy and that they can't learn. So we will do whatever we can to help children get to that point. Private education, on the other hand, also exists in our community. The biggest private educators are the Catholic Church. These are known as parochial schools. There's parochial schools at the elementary level, the K through 8th grade, and then high schools. These schools, like other private education ventures, charge a tuition. So a parent who decides to send their child to a private education pays the property taxes and the school taxes plus the tuition fees for sending their children to those schools. So besides the Catholic Church, other religious organizations, the Baptists, some Muslim organizations, some Jewish organizations. So other religious organizations also have their own churches. Then we have independent schools. These are also private schools. They're independent because they're not associated with any specific religious function. Um, they maybe have been started by a community or by a group of people who felt that they could offer a better education. And then we do have some boarding schools, not as many as Europe, but we do have some boarding schools where actually the children go and stay at those schools. They don't just attend them on a day-to-day basis. And then we do have something referred to as charter schools. Charter schools do receive government funding, but they're not subjected to the same rules and regulations. This is a very controversial point in America because many people feel that charter schools are taking away from public education itself. Charter schools fairly new, 20 years or so. The school has to write a specific plan, submit it to the state government, the state education department, and the state education department will either decide that this plan can go ahead or it cannot go ahead. Once it goes ahead, then it can receive government funding for the day-to-day operation, but not for building maintenance or finding buildings or anything like that. So oftentimes private companies are involved in the charter school development. When the charter school movement began, it was believed by some people that this would really revolutionize education in America because they're not following the same rules and regulations, so they can do things different. Recently, the research has not been good for charter schools. Charter schools are not showing the gains in learning that they so expected to. So again, there's a big push. Do we send our children to charter schools or not? Do we keep funding them? It's a big question going on in America right now. We also have public universities. They are usually controlled by the state. So every state has its own university system. The state of New York has the State of New York University System and college system, where they do subsidize these schools. They're not free, but they do have a sliding scale tuition. Sliding scale in this case means if you're a resident, you pay the lowest price. If you're from out of state, you pay a higher price. But if you're from out of the country, you pay even a higher price. These are the sliding scale tuitions. And then we do have private universities, Notre Dame, and Harvard, things like that. They receive no subsidies from the government whatsoever. So in many cases, they have a much higher tuition. Both public and private universities do rely on alumni support. They do rely on the fact that people who graduated from those schools will give back to those schools. It's important to note at this point that there is no discernible difference in America between the words university and college. We offer exactly the same degrees at both. You could have a university, you could have a college. Basically, a university is usually much bigger, and within a university there are multiple colleges. The College of Education, the College of Journalism, the College of Science, whatever the case may be. But you can also have a college, for example, Buffalo State College. It's one college, not made up of multiple colleges. And actually, Buffalo State College, which is a public university in Buffalo, New York, and the State University at Buffalo offer exactly the same programs. So And since both are public universities, their tuition fees are subsidized. It all depends, for example, Buffalo State College has a much better education program than the State University at Buffalo. So people going into the teaching profession would go to that school. But if you're going into science or science research, then you definitely want to go to the State University of Buffalo because they have a much better program. So oftentimes people make decisions on where to go to school based on the quality of the programs and things like that. And the same applies to private. You don't choose to go to a private simply because it's higher tuition. You choose because they offer a better education. Okay, let's take a minute and talk a little bit about the structure of our system, primarily in the K to 12 environment. So as I've mentioned before, the federal government cannot levy taxes. They do not directly give money to schools for educational purposes, but over the last 50 years or so, they've been involved in special programs like bilingual education. They offer school districts money if they offer courses in, let's say, English and Spanish. They also are involved in testing. They offer money if schools can show test gains and can produce better assessment tools for their students. And they offer money in terms of curriculum development. In America, what you would call end terms are called standards in America. So they do offer money, so therefore districts and states can apply for this money, and then when they get it, they have to follow specific federal regulations to keep the money. But like I said, the federal government does not just give money to the schools on a regular basis. It's for specific programs. The majority of the funding comes from the two other sources, the state government and the local government. The state government will levy taxes. One of the things many states do is they offer lotteries, and the money earned from a lottery program is designed to go to schools. The state oversees the development of the curriculum and the development of the assessments used to measure if that curriculum has been met. The local government, local government can consist of a council or a board. In many school districts, especially in the north where I'm from, a school district has what's referred to as a board of education. These are members of the community that have been elected by the general public to oversee the education of that community. And they have the power by law to levy taxes, usually in the form of property taxes. But before they do that, the budget that the school is going to levy the taxes on must be approved by the general public. If it's not, then the school has to go to what's called an austerity budget, a much smaller budget, which will not affect property taxes. But the local government board will oversee the day-to-day operations, including how the curriculum is measured out in the school, and things like that. So you have this three-tiered system, but really the bulk of the oversee is done at the bottom of the tier by the local government. So think of it as a pyramid. As you go up, it becomes less and less. In America, each community that has a school is referred to as a district. And a district consists of a number of schools, including elementary, primary, junior high, middle school, and high schools, or any combination thereof. Most districts, for example, where I grew up was in a little town called West Seneca. Our school district was known as West Seneca School District. So within the boundaries of the town of West Seneca, our schools were there. We had, at the time I went to school, we had 6 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, no, sorry, 3 middle schools and 2 high schools. And so basically it was all geographically located, so they would eventually filter into each other. Um, Districts, as the country developed and things like that, districts changed from being just at the community or town level into being at the county level. Let's say, like for like the county of Antwerp would have a district of schools. They would be referred to as a school district. So districts differ based on when a state came into the country and how they set up their education system. So in the north, where I'm from, we have many more districts, smaller districts, which in the 80s, 90s, this was problematic. We had too many districts, and the state wanted to get rid of them, so they decided that districts needed to merge, and then they would give them special money for merging and things like that. So we now have districts called Cuba Rushford District, which is a combination of the Cuba School District and the Rushford School District combined together. Some districts, like Pioneer, which is the district I lived in when I was an adult, in America, was a combination of 4 different districts, but instead of giving it a hyphenated name, they just decided to come up with a new name for it. So a lot of these districts, the states were trying to reduce the number of districts and hopefully improve the quality of education. At the district level, I mentioned the school board. The school board consists of members who are elected by the community to oversee education. The school board is responsible for everything. The overseeing the curriculum, any rules and regulations, overseeing the budget, levying taxes, all of it. It's a non-paid elected position, and yeah, it's sometimes not a favorite position because these people have to raise taxes, and a lot of people don't like that. Um, in a district, the person who oversees the complete district is referred to as the superintendent. The superintendent will most likely have an assistant superintendent, at least one, if not two, depending on the size of the district. And in addition, we'll have directors. Directors of curriculum, directors of testing, directors of physical education, directors of art education, things like that. So all these people work at directly under the superintendent. And then within a district, you have all these individual buildings. Each one of these buildings has a leader, and that leader is referred to as a principal. And the principal, in many cases, will have an assistant principal, somebody that works with them. And then within that same school, underneath the principal will be department heads. These are people that had the English department or the social studies department, the math department. These people report directly to the principal. And then underneath the department heads will be the individual teachers. So underneath the English department head will be all the English teachers. And remember, in America, you only teach one subject. You're a specialist, especially at the high school level. So you're only an English teacher, or only a math teacher, or only a French teacher. You're never a combination of more than one teacher. And then, of course, you have the students at the school. So they are there as well. Just so you know, teachers need to begin working in the field. They have to have a bachelor's degree. And in America, a bachelor's degree is a 4-year degree, not a 3-year degree. Then once they start working in the field, they are required to receive a master's degree, a 2-year additional degree, and they have 5 years to do that. If they do not get a master's degree within 5 years, they're out of the profession. In addition, all teachers, no matter what type of degree they have, are required to attend professional development outside of school hours. So you are required to put in for every 5 years, I believe it is, in New York State, you have to demonstrate or prove that you've attended 150 hours of professional development on your time and often at your own cost. So there's a strong belief that teachers don't get into the classroom and never ever crack open a book again. They have to continually crack open a book to understand the whole education process. In addition, many states, if not all by this point, require their teachers to be licensed, very similar to a lawyer or a doctor or an engineer. They have to take a series of tests, and by passing those tests, they receive a license to teach. And all teachers must participate in what's referred to as a child abuse workshop. I should mention that in the bachelor's degree, all teachers are required to take courses about teaching students with special needs. And then they have to take a child abuse workshop. By law, a teacher is required to report any suspected cases of child abuse within their classroom. If they do not, and something is found out, they can be fired and they can lose their license. So teachers see something, maybe a bruise or um, something else, or the child is, if their behavior has changed dramatically. They may ask the child something. There may be some indication between the physical seeing, the mental change, and what this child may say, that the teacher then has to go to a specific person designated in a building and report this. And then it's that person's job to report it to the proper authorities, which can include police, psychologists, and things like that. So that is required of all teachers in America. All right, so now let's take a look at the system itself and what is done within the system. So the K-5 system. Um, Oops, sorry. So kindergarten is not required. First grade is when pupils begin at the age of 6. There has been a recent push that we develop a universal kindergarten classes, that every child goes to kindergarten for the readiness. Research done by the federal government has actually shown that if we can increase the readiness of both the child and the parent, especially in poverty cases, then we can improve that child's chance of having a better education. This is referred to as the Head Start program, which is huge in America and which really deals with targeting children and parents at the lower income bracket. At this level, students they stay with one teacher in most cases from kindergarten through 5th grade. They stay with one teacher, and that teacher is responsible for teaching all the subjects, including language arts, which is um, basically what you guys do. It's teaching the skills: reading, writing, listening, speaking, things like that. It's very skill orientated and knowledge orientated, building vocabulary, building grammar. Social studies. Social studies is a combination of history and geography in America. You're studying the social climate of the world. At this level, they study things like communities and community helpers, and then eventually, I think in 3rd grade, they start to get into like Native Americans, early history, some explorers, and then they may touch a little bit on the world. I think about in 6th grade, they do a little bit with the modern world, the countries, and in the regions of the world. And then they study science. Again, it's very general. They study all the sciences: biology, physics, chemistry, earth science, all within one general category referred to as science. Math at this level, of course, is the basic math that you're probably used to as well. It includes things like adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, simple problem solving, things like that. They do take courses in art and music, maybe not every year. Art and music seem to be the programs that often get cut when there's a budget problem in a school district. And physical education. Every child is required to attend physical education classes so many hours per week. There's been a big push in developing fitness and combating obesity in America, and physical fitness has gotten stronger and stronger. In addition to taking these courses every year, the students in specific grades have to take tests produced by the state to show that they are progressing. And if they're not progressing, then A, they either need to be held back to redo the grade again, or a tutor needs to be hired to help the students move on. You can see language arts and math are the heaviest tested areas. They're tested in the third, fourth, and fifth grades. So every student in the third, fourth, and fifth grade, they take these tests and they measure their progress over time. Science is tested in fifth and social studies in sixth. So we do a lot of testing, which is one of the things we'll talk about in class. After attending elementary school, which is the K through 5, the students may attend a junior high or a middle school. Uh, these terms are used sometimes interchangeably. Sometimes a junior high refers to containing grades 6 through 8, and it consists of 6 to 8 45 to 55-minute periods or classes. Middle school sometimes is 7th through ninth grade, and sometimes we'll have more block scheduling. That is, you may have 2 hours of English and 2 hours of history, and maybe semester changes, things like that. So closer more to a university schedule than to a regular school schedule. And in middle school, the concept was that you do more interdisciplinary in teaching. So the English and social studies teacher may teach together. They may team teach, and the science and math teacher may teach together. This carried over to some high schools as well. The last high school I worked in, the High School for Law Enforcement and Public Safety, worked on this interdisciplinary teaching. So the social studies teacher and I, the English teacher, were responsible for team teaching, and our curriculums had to match and the things that we were teaching. So if he was teaching the American Revolution, I was doing maybe songs from the American Revolution, things like that. So you had to work together. Again, the students continue to take language arts, math, social studies, science, and physical education in addition to art and music, maybe. And they may be introduced to a foreign language. The most popular foreign language at this point is Spanish, of course, because of the number of people who speak Spanish in our country. But they can often take other languages, including French, and depending on their community, they may take a Greek or German or something like that. There used to be a lot more choices. When I was in school, you could take, the school I went to, you could take Spanish, French, German, or Latin. Latin is almost non-existent nowadays. Very few people take it anymore, and there's very few Latin teachers even out there. In addition, they have during this period career education courses where they learn about what careers they might be interested in, what they might want to do, and they have technical education. Technical education includes both learning to saw a piece of wood or build a birdhouse to making a cake. So what used to be referred to as home ec now all falls under this concept of technical education. And part of the idea is that in middle school we start to get the kids ready to think about what might they want to do with their life. Again, testing continues, and again, every grade does language arts and math, and then science in the 8th grade, and social studies also in the 8th grade. So the 8th grade is a very, very heavy year in terms of testing. And remember, they're high-stake testing, so if a student does not do well on the test, they may be held back and have to do not just the subject over again, but almost the whole year over again. So in middle school and elementary school, if you fail, you have to do the whole year over again. That does change in high school. So let's take a look at high school. High school consists of usually 4 grades: the freshmen, ninth grade, sophomores, 10th grade, juniors, 11th, and seniors, the 12th grade. And I presented a course of study here, what has to be done over the 4 years. And it sometimes will change. I just want to check something here. Uh, yeah. So sometimes it might be different from state to state. This is what it is in New York State, and this is very close to what many states follow. You do English for 4 years, and it's a literature-focused class. So not so much grammar and the skills anymore, but really focusing on literature and writing about literature and becoming familiar with what's referred to as the Western canon. We start with teaching we teach Shakespeare, a lot of Shakespeare. Most students do at least one Shakespeare play per year. We do a lot with the ancient Greek and Roman as well, medieval, and then of course modern American and modern British. And in some cases, if the students are in a higher level English class, they may do language and translation, or literature and translation, which was a course I taught. So we read novels that were originally written in French, or from Belgium. We actually read a novel, or Turkish or Japanese, something like that. So they may do that as well. Social studies is also 4 years, 200 hours per year. 2 years consist of world history, 1 year of American history, a half a year of economics, and a half a year of what's referred to as citizenship. And this means, what does it mean to be a citizen of the United States? It means to be participatory and things like that. Students are only required to do 3 years of mathematics. They often will take what's referred to as algebra, geometry, and trigonometry, or simply trig. 3 years of science. Again, the most common, every student takes living environment, which is the new name for biology. Most students will take earth science, and then chemistry, and then physics. Our earth science is comparable to what you refer to as geography. So there's some of the geography is in our social studies, and the rest is in our earth science class. Most students will take living environment and earth science, and then choose between chemistry and physics. They only need 1 year of a foreign language, and a school may offer choice or may not. The last high school I worked in had no choice. Every student took Spanish. 4 years of physical education, 100 hours per year. So there's basically gym classes. You've seen them in films and TV series, and every student has to participate in gym class. In addition to participating in gym class, they also have to take a health class. Health is associated with our physical education department, and they're taught by our physical education teachers. So technically, students in America need 4.5 years of physical education, 4 years of actual gym class, and 1/2 year of health class. 1 year of arts. This can include fine arts like painting and things like that, or it can include a music class or a dramatic class as well, or dance actually too. And then the students have 700 hours over 4 years of electives. These are courses that the students can choose based on a path that they may want to follow. They can take vocational education classes so they can learn to become an auto mechanic, or they can learn to become a hairdresser or a carpenter. They can take what's referred to as college placement courses. These are courses that prepare them to go to university, and at the same time, they can give them university credit. So students could actually go to university with 1 or 2 semesters worth of credit already under their belt by taking these courses in high school. And specialty courses. And one of the biggest pushes lately in big cities like New York is to develop these themed high schools. So I taught at the high school for law enforcement and public safety, and students would take courses in forensics, criminal law, things like that. So it was a very theme. So if they thought that they wanted a career either as a lawyer or forensic scientist, a police officer, they would come to our school, and they would take their electives would be then chosen for them based on the fact that this was the path they wanted to follow. What's interesting about this course of study is every single student must follow this course of study. Doesn't matter about what your intellectual ability is. It doesn't matter if you're going into vocational education or you're going to university. Every student must, to graduate and to get a diploma, follow this course of study. That's very important. And then, of course, there is testing. Um, Usually it's split into two. You can get what's referred to as a general diploma. This is the diploma most people get. You take an English exam after 3 years of English class, a social studies exam, one or two social studies, one for world history and one for American history. At least one science exam, even though you take 3 years of science, only one of those has to be a state exam. One math exam, the same thing, and a proficiency exam in your foreign language. If you want an advanced diploma, if you're really planning to go to university, you want to show that you're really capable, you can take exams in 2 additional math classes, 2 additional science classes, and you take 2 more years of a foreign language. Those would be your electives, and you take an exam at the end of the third year of a 3-year course of study. So again, a lot of exams, and the difference now is if you fail one of these required testing exams, you do not have to take the course over. You only have to take the exam over. But if you fail a course, and that is you have a grade below 65, then you have to take the whole course over. Even if you pass the exam, you have to take the whole course over. So some students do their high school education a bit longer because they may fail a course or two and they have to fit them into their schedule. So you never, unless you fail all the courses for your, let's say your freshman year, you would never take the whole year over. Instead, you would take, if you fail English, you take English over again. If you fail social studies, you take social studies over again. So you could be moving into the sophomore year, but still taking freshman courses. So it can be, without a doubt, a scheduling nightmare in a school. So that's a huge, huge difference. The fact that all students must follow the same course of study, all students must um, get a general diploma, regardless of your ability. You have to graduate with a general diploma. There's no more really just letting students attend school and just giving them what's referred to as an attendance diploma. It seldom, seldom happens anymore. So that's high school. And then we should be looking at college. Here we go. So let's take a look at college. So at the university level, we have a number of types. We have a 2-year school, which is referred to as a community or junior college, a 4-year college or university, both public and private. And there are some that are still gender specific, but those are almost all gone in America. To get into college, you have to have a diploma from high school, you have to show your grades, and you also have to take what's referred to as the SAT. The SAT is an exam that everybody takes. It gives you a score that's supposed to help a college determine if you're intellectually ready for study at college. So this is a big thing in the junior year. Usually students are very nervous and stressed because they have to prepare for the SAT, and if they get a low score, they may have to take it again. But what's interesting is every time you retake the test, it's still reported. So if you take the test 3 times, when you go to apply to a university, it shows that you've taken the test 3 times. That may or may not help you. And then if you want to get into a master's program, that is the programs after you get your bachelor's degree, you have to take the graduate record exam or the GRE exam, again, to show that you are capable and ready to participate at that level of education. Degrees. We offer certificates. These would be non-credit bearing classes. And then the lowest degree you can receive is an associate's degree. That's a 2-year degree. A 4-year degree is a bachelor's degree. Beyond a bachelor's degree, you can do a year and a half more, 2 years more, and get a master's degree. And then if you want, you can get a doctoral degree. This would be the PhD if you want to further your studies. And you can also get something referred to as a professional degree. These are for very specific things like certified public accountants, principals and superintendents of schools. They can be beyond their master's degree. They have to take additional courses, and that's referred to as a professional degree. Um, and then how much does all this cost? Well, it's fairly expensive. A public university, which remember it receives state subsidies, can cost upwards of 23,000 US dollars per year. And that does not include things like housing and food and things like that. So up to 23, depending on, the better the reputation of the school, the more tuition they can charge. Private universities, on average, 44,000 plus US dollars. Now, that's is a lot of money. And so to offset that, there is a lot of financial aid available. There's free money referring to grants. Some of these grants come from the federal government, some from the state government. There's scholarships. You hear a lot about students having applied for scholarships. Scholarships are given out by organizations for students who are pursuing specific fields of study, or scholarships may be given out to athletes. A university can recruit athletes for their basketball or football or baseball team, whatever the case may be, and offer them a scholarship. And scholarships are usually paid for by alumni money. Um, and in addition, if you don't have enough grants and scholarships or savings, then you can take out loans. There's two types of loans. A student loan. If you take out a student loan, it's a very, very low interest rate. The interest does accumulate, but you do not have to pay anything on this loan until you are graduated from the university. Parents can take out a loan as well. Again, the interest is lower than normal loans, but the parents have to start paying it off immediately. So there's a lot of ways to pay for it, and things like that. But it's very, very expensive. So consider yourself fairly lucky that you're going to school here in Belgium, where it's certainly not as expensive as going to school in America. So this is a quick overview, not so quick, but a quick overview of the American education system, and we'll talk more about it in class. All right, great, thanks.